Chapter 6. Ernie shifted against the pillows, wincing as his shoulder protested. His voice came out rough, tired, but steady enough. "Pans, on the shelf to your right," he said, nodding toward it instead of lifting his arm. "Water jugs above it." It wasn't casual. It wasn't domestic. It was a man trying to stay useful despite the pain, giving directions because he physically couldn't do it himself. Skye grabbed 2 MREs from the boxes she had retrieved and headed to make them. She retrieved the pan and the jug of water. Shadow sat watching her intently. "What? Are you hungry too?" she asked. Shadow wagged his tail and trotted toward his bowl. "I'll take that as a yes," she laughed softly. Ernie let out a low chuckle, surprised at himself for it. "His food's in the bin over there. 1 cup morning, 1 at night." Skye measured out a cup of food and poured it into Shadow's bowl. After washing her hands, she read the package instructions, measured the water for their meals, and set it to heat. Ernie cleared his throat. "So, I kinda passed out before I could ask you anything." Skye looked up from the pot. "Okay. First," he said, voice steadying, "thank you. You probably saved my life. But, you seem very young to know how to do all that. How old are you?" Skye carefully poured the heated water into the meal bags. Without looking at him, she replied, "I'm 18. 18? Ernie blinked, stunned. Something flickered in his mind, instinct, not trust, but he pushed it aside. Now wasn't the time. Skye left the meal bags to set and walked over to her pack. She pulled out a large envelope and handed it to him. Inside were her high school diploma and a degree from the University of South Dakota, conferring her as a doctor of medicine, her transcripts, several letters from her professors, and documents about her extraordinary mind. Ernie stared at her in amazement. "How?" "The papers in there may explain better than I can," she said. Skye plated his food and handed it to him with a bottle of water. Ernie read through several of the letters, looking at her in disbelief. "You're a genius. Or at least that's what most of these say." He gently put the papers back and handed her the envelope. His head throbbed too much to process everything, but something in his chest tightened, a protective instinct he didn't want to examine. "I can remember anything I see or read. I never have to look at it again. I keep a few documents or books, but not because I need them, just to look normal," she replied. Ernie swallowed. He understood that more than he wanted to admit. She returned the envelope to her pack and sat down with her own meal. "Do you know what's happening outside?" Ernie put his fork down. "I saw the flash. At first, I didn't think much of it, small town, not many vehicles around. But then I noticed the lime green clouds. People who got wet from the green rain started getting sick. Cars wouldn't start. I had an idea of what happened. At least the cars and power going out." He paused. "EMP. But no standard nuke would cause green rain. I stayed open to help anyone who might need supplies. Then, earlier today, I saw people acting wrong. Like they forgot how to function. I started to close up, but then Mrs. Miller's daughter, Kate, attacked Mr. Cage. He hesitated. She bit and clawed at him until he went down. He tried to fend her off, they both hit the ground, then she ripped open his abdomen and started eating his insides." Ernie shuddered. "I've seen a lot in the service, but that turned my stomach. I ran to grab my rifle. Then Don and his boys showed up." He pointed to the bandage on his shoulder. "While I was still getting to my rifle, Don and his group rushed in. All armed, demanding I open the cases. As soon as I took the keys out, he shot me. Then some kid bashed me in the head." Skye nodded toward the supplies she'd gathered. "That's when I showed up. I figured they might come back, so I finished cranking down the security gates. I took care of you and tried to salvage what I could, but they returned fast. They found running vehicles. I heard them coming, so I locked us in here and lowered the gate. They used something to get through the front one, the whole building shook. They tried shooting the door, but it didn't help them. They said they'd come back. Ernie glanced at the items. I appreciate that you tried to save what you could. What about you? Where'd you come from? North Spearfish. I was hiking the trail when the flash happened, she replied. You were hiking? Alone? Ernie asked, incredulous. Sighing, she replied, my foster parents kicked me out. I was no longer an income source for them since I'm 18 and out of school. She shook her head. A lot of foster parents play the system. They're not in it for love. Ernie's jaw tightened. He didn't like that. At all. Sky sighed. Many kids are there temporarily until their parents can take them back. But others, like me, are there permanently. My birth mom died in childbirth, and no one knows who my dad is. Ernie looked down. Something in him twisted, not trust, not emotion, just a deep instinct he didn't want to name. So, you hiked the trail all the way? That's a good 50 miles. She took a deep breath. I spent the night in the garden shed, then went back into my foster parents' house to get my stuff the next day when they weren't home. My camping gear, clothing, boots. I had money hidden in my room that I earned. They expected me to leave with just the clothes on my back. I didn't steal anything except, she pointed to the gun on the floor. I felt like I needed it out there, being alone. She hung her head. Ernie nodded. Given what's happening now, I'm glad you did. And then? Sky leaned back. I headed south on the trail, away from places they used to camp. I had no friends. I was walking when the flash happened. Cars had stopped, accidents everywhere. Phones weren't working. I backed off the road and kept to the trail. I saw the lime green clouds and ran for a survival shelter. I got soaked but made it. She paused to eat, then continued. I stayed in the shelter because I got very sick. My guess is the green rain. I finally started walking again and found a map where the trail joined others. That's when I saw my first, one of them. He was staggering. Something was wrong. He wasn't dressed for hiking, and the way he walked, like you said, like he forgot how. I didn't wait around. Sky swallowed hard. Later, I stopped to rest at another shelter. In the night, I heard scratching. I thought it was an animal. The next morning, it was him, the man from the trail. Her voice broke. He was hitting the wall over and over. Missing a shoe, foot sliced open so badly I could see inside. A chunk of flesh missing from his cheek. When he saw me, he wouldn't stop. I shot in the air, nothing. I pointed my gun right at him, nothing. I shot him in the chest at point-blank range. He staggered but didn't fall. Still came at me. And then I shot him between the eyes. Tears streamed down her face. Ernie straightened. You're telling me a chest shot didn't stop him? Sky looked up. No. It took the headshot. Just like in the movies. When I came into town, I didn't want to make noise. I had to kill some coming in. The lady you mentioned was joined by another, and the man was still alive. I couldn't leave him. I used this. She pulled out her mini bow. I've only got 30 steel rods, but I'm a good shot at 15 feet. Ernie huffed a soft laugh. I've heard of those, but didn't think they were good for much. Sky gave a faint smile, then her expression shifted. There's something else, she said quietly. Something I didn't tell you. Ernie looked up, alert. Shadow approached me, Sky said. I was hiding from those men. I was sick, exhausted, my left hand was hanging at my side. She took a breath. Shadow came up without making a sound. He nosed the back of my hand, gentle. Ernie's jaw tightened. Shadow didn't do that. He sat calmly, tail wagging. I put my bow away so I wouldn't spook him. I let him sniff my hand, and he licked it. She laughed softly. That's when I saw his tag. I read it out loud. Shadow. If found, return to Ernie's army supplies and gun shop. I told him, well, Shadow, that sounds about right. Then I said, lead the way. And he did. Shadow thumped his tail once. I found you on the floor, Sky said. Dragged you into the living quarters, and for the record, you're heavier than you look. Ernie blinked, surprised she could joke. Then the men came back, she said. Shadow started to growl, and I whispered, silent. And he listened. He went still. Ernie stared at Shadow, his dog, obeying her. Shadow didn't obey strangers. Shadow didn't guide strangers. Shadow didn't go silent for strangers. But he had done all of that for her. A quiet, unsettling recognition twisted in Ernie's chest. Not trust, not emotion, just instinct. Shadow listened to you? He asked. Sky nodded. Yeah. Like he knew me. Ernie swallowed hard. Because deep down, in the place he never let himself look, it felt like he knew her too.